This video is brought to you by Marvel Strike Force, but more on that in a moment. I didn't say I wouldn't kill her commander, so I didn't actually lie about it. Oh, that's not a good one. On occasion, I ask my Discord for AITAs. Am I the bumhole? I can't say the proper word for the first 90 seconds of the video or YouTube will demonetize me. And I also sometimes cover them when I see them come up on Reddit as well. So I asked, and well, Garthar had one for me. It's a story of semantics, legalese, and not quite lying, and I think that's super interesting. I don't think Garthar's going to like what I got to say in this video. And further to that, I want to use this example as a jumping off point to talk about, well, talking, using your words, which sounds really patronizing, but I actually think Commander players are quite bad at this. I just want to talk a little bit about my own personal philosophy around it. But first, a message from today's sponsor. It's time to celebrate the holiday season with your favorite Marvel characters in Marvel Strike Force. It's a mobile squad-based RPG that allows you to assemble your favorite Marvel characters all in one place and do a big battle, a big fight with superheroes or supervillains. Complete missions and unlock gear and beat other players in PvP. Much like a collection of comic books, Marvel Strike Force allows you to collect all your favorite characters in one place. But instead of collecting dust on your shelves, you get to use them and do a big fight. You can do a big fight in campaign mode, Blitz, Arena, Alliance War, Raids, or even Cosmic Crucible, which is a big head-to-head tournament. New characters are constantly added, and look out for the newly released and highly anticipated Absolute A-Force, led by Kahori, and featuring Captain Carter. So celebrate the holiday season and use the promo code DEC24 to unlock what-if characters like Captain Carter, Star-Lord T'Challa, and Strange Heartless. Look out for the link in the description below and use the code DEC24. Thank you to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring this video. Let's do the AITA, the Am I the Arsehole, first, so that we can get into what Garthar was talking about. If you want to post more of these to my Discord, you can do so by getting involved with my Patreon. There's a link in the description below for just £2 a month. And sometimes people, because it's the AMA room, also ask me things like taco or burrito. So tape deck card, I'm going to say burrito. I just love rice. I've got a real hot spot for rice. Best kind of cheese? Oh, anything that melts well. I love stringy melted cheese. I also like really crispy cheese too, so that's probably not true. And one more, Avery asked, would I come in the sink or sink in the cum? I would fill the sink with cum and then sink into it. It's like a dual mode. Am I the arsehole? Garthar writes, I was playing Commander with people I knew at a Friday night Commander event. The only prize is a couple of packs for winning. For more context, I did not win. So I was sort of tied for the scariest board state. The other scary player was in their turn, and I told them if they attacked me, I would kill their commander, and I showed them the spell in my hand. They attacked other players. On their end step, I killed their commander anyway because it was the biggest threat to me, and I wanted to win. Her brother thought it was terribly funny, but she was not impressed. I didn't say I wouldn't kill her commander anyway, so I didn't actually lie about it. Oh, baby. Okay, there's a few things to unpack here. Firstly, I really like the thing that Garthar is doing with being really open and obvious about what some of your plans are, even if they use that kind of as a bit of underhanded subterfuge. I am a big proponent of people not just rattlesnaking, not just like, if you attack me, I'll kill your thing, like being actually really open about what they've got. Some players have told me that I am perhaps too open and too vocal about how I play Commander. I will tell people I have a removal spell. I will show people that I have a removal spell and that I intend to use it to protect my life total from a large attacking threat, for example. I will sometimes explain to the table that I'd rather use the removal spells in my hands to stop someone from winning with a combo or someone else getting ahead with some huge value engine, a great henge, for example, rather than protect myself, but I'm not opposed to having to protect myself if I have to. What I find is that if you do this consistently, that people start to respect you when you say these things. It gives you a lot of agency and tools that aren't involved with your mana or cards in hand necessarily, with your words, to affect the game state. And it's clear that Garthar was doing that. He didn't get attacked. And he didn't get attacked because he threatened to kill someone's commander. Now, in the end of the turn in which he made the threat, he killed the commander anyway. Oh, there's a bit of semantics, a bit of legalese, a bit of like, well, you didn't quite say it the right way. And there's a few reasons why I actually dislike that in Commander. Firstly, I do think Garthar wasn't absolutely in the wrong here because they didn't say they wouldn't kill it. They used it as a gesture to stop being attacked by it. And also, if you wanted to win the game and not lose to it later, the threat has to be removed. Saying to someone you wouldn't remove their attacking threat or their commander or similar to avoid getting attacked doesn't mean that that commander now has complete immunity to your spells for the rest of the game. This is the thing that I've witnessed even in some content before, where people have thought that we've got like a fucking a truce that's not the word I'm looking for, a truce forever, and that's just not how Magic works, especially in a game where you have to like fight and kill the other players, and thus you only get like 1 or 2 turns of protection, if you will, or I won't attack you next turn. It doesn't mean forever, even if you are friends. A thing that I asked the table about a lot. The problem is that the way that Garthar went about it, not killing it in the combat step, letting it hit someone, and then killing it end of turn, well, there's 2 ways to go with it. Firstly, there is if your playgroup is into that kind of thing, it's very funny. They mentioned that the girl's brother thought it was really funny. If your playgroup is into this like tricksy, like what do the words really mean sort of vibe, then everyone can get on board with the fact that everyone's backstabbing and politicking to beat each other. That's fine. The problem you have in playgroups that aren't up for that sort of like vibe is that people will get frustrated and annoyed about having to have conversations with people where they're asking very clearly what each of the words in a sentence meant. I think talking at a commander table is a super important part of what makes Commander so great. It allows people to have agency, like I said, when you have no mana available, or you're top decking, or you're low on resources. It still allows you to be part of the game. And I think anything that looks to make people regret doing so or frustrated when doing so should be avoided. And making promises or making gestures that you almost immediately go back on will make people feel like that in future. This opponent that didn't attack Garthar and then had that commander removed anyway at the end of turn is probably feeling like they were tricked in a way that might make them not want to have that conversation with Garthar again. And on a singular player level, that means that Garthar has lost a tool there for making the games both fun, but also giving themselves an impact into the game when they are low on resources. They're just going to get looked at as that person who goes back on deals. Even if they technically didn't, it still has the feel of going back on a deal in my opinion. But more to that, not just Garthar as a player and them losing some tools themselves, but the playgroup and the general attitude and demeanor and the feel and the vibe of the playgroup may diminish. People may not want to have these conversations in future. I really hate trying to broker a deal with someone when they are being really tricksy pixie. I mean, I describe myself as a tricksy pixie in Commander because I have a lot of like pointing out who the threat is and discussing things openly and being very open about what the removal I have in my hand is and similar. But when I'm trying to like agree, okay, we're friends, right? You're not hitting me with your 12 Valgavoth putting me to half commander damage next turn, right? That's not happening. If they're like, well, I'm not attacking you, or some sort of loopsy doopsy bullshit, it becomes frustrating immediately. Like it distracts from the game itself and makes it very hard to actually communicate when everyone's trying to like, you know, be nefarious and stuff and failing half of the time. Sometimes when people are like that with me, I will just shut down the conversation and go to doing action. And not like go quiet and stop talking to people. I can't stop talking if you haven't noticed from the content in this channel, but I will actually just decide to take some actions to further the game forward, so then maybe people might actually, you know, listen to the fact that I actually have things I want to do. Sometimes people think they can filibuster almost to stop them, to make you make an action. Sometimes firing off a spell, sometimes pinpoint removing something, like firing a gun into the air in a crowded room. Don't do that. But sometimes it makes people actually listen. They start to realize that their words matter and the game's going to proceed past this stupid conversation of, I'm not going to not do that. So I'm sorry, Garthar, but in this circumstance, I laugh emoted to this. I think this is funny if the playgroup is on board for this style of play, but the fact that she wasn't so impressed suggests to me that this isn't the setup that she's come for, the whole playgroup wants. And this is something that I think a lot of people need to consider when they're playing Commander. The decks they play, the cards they play, the way they play them, the way they politic and converse. Is like, is this going to be helpful in getting you towards playing more Commander later and it being of a good or better quality than the Commander you're playing right now? Because pissing off a whole table with a stack deck that you think's funny, or Cataclysm with no backup plan, or going back on deals, or playing like a, I didn't quite say that, you didn't quite catch what I said, it can lead to a bad atmosphere that will make playing later down the line worse. In the worst case scenario, people just don't want to play with it. Steel City Steph posted this on Twitter a few months ago, and I've been thinking about it quite a bit because I think a lot about the social side of Commander. I love to talk a lot myself, but also because I think it's what makes the Commander format so fun and interesting. Loudly alerting the whole table who the threat is one of my least favourite social norms VDH. It's a multiplayer game. Not everyone's gameplay is equally impacted by a given threat. There are often multiple threats to consider. Let people evaluate for themselves. I'm not dunking on that. I actually think it's a really interesting conversational piece, and some of the stuff that she's saying is actually really valid. The bit in the middle that I really do get is that sometimes when you say, well, that's a threat, let's say the most basic thing is like, I don't know, a 21 damage commander that has flying, but you're playing a deck with that makes like 5 1/1 flying birds a turn. You're going to be chumping it for days, and thus it's not a threat to you like it is to a player who's decided to come to the Commander night and play 0 creatures. Different things are different threats to different people. Someone slamming a Rest in Peace might absolutely break the back of your deck, and other people might just shrug and continue playing. Different cards affect different players differently, absolutely. And thus, if you have one person, a boisterous loud voice at the table like myself, who might speak about how something is a threat or how something is a problem, that can lead a whole table down some sort of like a tunnel vision style look at the game. Now, there is an argument, though, that I will make that is absolutely part of the game. That conversing with the other players is absolutely essential, and you should be able to use that to meander the game in directions that you want it to go. Sometimes it backfires. Sometimes I talk so much that people target me down and I lose the games hard because everyone wants to kill the chatty YouTuber man. Other times I'll win games that I absolutely does not deserve to win because I've talked myself to that win. Both because I am quite good at communicating, I think, but also there's a power imbalance if we use that terminology. That makes it sound like it's a bit more nefarious than it is, where like I might have more sway over fans or viewers or friends who look up to the way I make Magic content and similar than perhaps other people do. So I'm trying to balance that myself personally. But either way, regardless of that, that is still part of the game. People should evaluate for themselves. I guess what I would like to promote is this idea that we do all talk. You are allowed to express at a table what you think the threat is, but you've also got to bear in mind individually that when someone's expressing something as the threat, they have ulterior motives too, right? They want to win this game of Commander, or at least get themselves into a commanding position to do the thing that their deck does. So they are going to point out things that you might not give a shit about. And you can just like smile and nod. That's the other thing, right? I love when I meet players who smile and nod along to me, but they aren't really agreeing with what I'm doing. And you kind of catch on to it over the course of a game. And it's both refreshing from a perspective of someone who does win some games that they just don't deserve to win, but also it makes for a really interesting dynamic at the table where they know I'm trying to get people to work in a certain way, to ignore something that I'm doing and similar, and they've got my number. I love it. Either way, and ultimately, Magic the Gathering in the Commander format is absolutely elevated by the social side of it. So I think that conversations around who the threat is, or whether you're going to kill something if you come for me, and those sort of deal brokering stuff, and whether you go back on them or not, all that is super fascinating and a super interesting part of Magic the Gathering as a Commander multiplayer social format. And it'd pain me to remove that from the format. But people do have to think about that when they're listening to other players talk and when they're playing Commander. Either way, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Was Garthar an asshole for their point there? And do you agree with Stephanie that it's annoying when people say things are a threat? I don't, but I also agree that one threat to one player on artifacts like, .deck is going to be very different to the person playing Muldrotha. It's a whole different kettle of fish. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Thank you to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.